Hello, everyone. Our next speaker used to work for the police, so she knows how to shoot a gun. So a very respectful welcome to Jorien.
How to e-learn at the police, and then as a little outing, I learned how to shoot just once, but I was pretty good with it. So, my talk and this talk is about how two worlds and the best of two worlds come together. In the next 15 minutes, you will watch at me. And who am I? I'm a runner. I'm a mom of two boys, one boy and one girl. I have a bunch of families, a lot of kids. No, I have 2 kids. And I'm also a team lead product development at the department shopping platform with a whole bunch of very enthusiastic and pretty people. And Evelien is in my team, and she was, for this talk, my Nazi in spelling. And in the next 15 minutes, I would like to give you an insight in how an organization with more than 50 scrum teams can be very slow, why a good organizational structure helps in working together but is not necessary, why proximity matters more than you think, and it's even within centimeters or meters or millimeters, whatever, but be close. How we at Shopping Platform try to talk less and experiment more. And how it helps to not have share disciplines. I guess that you all know that sometimes you have to share an Oracle developer, or you have to share a business analyst, or you have to share a designer with multiple teams, and it makes it hard to manage whatever you're trying to do. And how a backend developer became a designer, and I'll also tell you who that is. But first of all, why did we as a department want it to change? Because if we kept on doing what we were doing, our people would lose their enthusiasm, they would lose their spirit, their joy. And if we kept doing what we did, we would never get any faster. And that latter is the main reason why we wanted to change, because we had a lot of feedback from IT, from business development, that we became very slow. And most of all, and importantly, is that we find ourselves slow. We were talking too much. We were not building stuff. And we got very frustrated about the pace that we were going in. And why slow? I mean, we have more than 50 very extremely agile scrum teams. So how can an organization with so many teams be slow? Because you have the potential to be extremely fast. And in the summer of 2017, we came to the painful conclusion that the scrum teams were not the problem, and not business development was the problem, but we were the problem. The design process, that was the problem. So we wanted to change and optimize that. And we came to the conclusion that we were the bottleneck, because if you look at this, and this is all of the, well, it's very black and white, but the stages of getting a user story to production, in the 10 years that we are now doing Agile Scrum, we very much optimized all of this. So development takes 2 or 3 days, depending on how big the story is. Testing, accepting, can all be done by the same team, even though the product owner is not in the team, but he or she is always very close and very involved. So there's not a lot of waiting on anybody. But if you take a look at how an idea is being thought about, the idea, and how an idea eventually gets into development, that is a very waterfall way. Because we lived, and I say lived because this is exactly what we changed since the beginning of the year, in different silos. We had business analysts on one department, we had product owners in a different department, and we had design in a totally different department. And those people were not on the same floor. They were on different levels. They had different managers. They had different goals they would work on. So they could not overhear each other's conversations. And how it would work is that someone, let's say from business development, wanted to implement click and collect. then that stakeholder would search for the product owner, and they would talk about whatever it is that they wanted to reach with click and collect, and then the product owner would go to a business analyst, or first he would talk, or she would talk to the manager of the business analyst in order to find out who could work on the requirements and setting the requirements. And then the business analyst would go to design or the manager of design and say, hey, who is the best designer that we can involve in this project? Then there was a very mysterious creative process that no one knew about what was happening over there. And then designers came back with a pixel perfect design, completely thought out, would test it or talk to the business developer about, hey, this was your wish and this is what I made. And of course it was never aligned, so then it would go over and over again through all of these departments. And then finally it got to the Scrum team, and they did not look as happy as in this picture, because we never involved them, we never consulted them. So whatever we came up with in the biggest designs that we were building, it was never the most efficient thing or the smallest thing that we could build. It was always the giant Ferrari that we wanted to create. So we changed our setup, and I actually find it shocking that we do Scrum since 2009, and that's almost 10 years ago, and that we now, for the first time, at business have real multidisciplinary teams. Oh, it's moving. And that we got rid of all of these different departments. So if you look at our new setup, we see different fleets. Mine fleet has the checkout, it has customer service. So we have 4 fleets, and whatever all of these 4 fleets have in common is that they all have a product owner, they all have their own business analyst, they all have their own designer, interaction designer, visual designer, and they're aligned with the Scrum teams below, and they're supported by those Scrum teams. And we sit all on one floor. But then you have the whole HR structure. People are put together, they now have the same manager, but it doesn't automatically mean that you work together. So it's only a beginning, it's a starting point. And how do you create that good working relation? So we discussed, how do we want to work together? What are the ingredients of working together that we find most important? Because if we can agree on whatever we find important, then we can create a couple of rules or principles that we can work by. And we found that belief in Lean UX. And Lean UX is inspired by Agile and Scrum, but then applied to the whole design process. So we stopped making big designs up front, and instead we focus more on experimenting and learning. And most importantly, we do that together with customers. So we strive on learning by doing. And those beliefs are resonated in a couple of principles. And what I want to tell you is, because we can tick box the first one, we now have for the first time in business cross-functional teams with product owners, business analysts, and designers together. But all of those other principles, we're still learning on how we do that with the teams. So one of the things that we found out is that when we were looking at new places where our people could sit, is that this is E6, and we had the Scrum team over there, we had the product owner and the business analyst over there, and we had our designer over there. And we thought, well, it's all on the same floor, it's only 3 meters away, what could go wrong? It should be close enough, right? But it's not. So since a few weeks, we moved Michiel Besseling from just around the corner to there. We did that illegally because Casper and facility are not very happy with this, so don't tell anyone. But what we noticed is that because he's at the desk and he's close to other people, he can now overhear whatever they are discussing or talking about. So a lot of interactions, and those interactions are needed to work together, are now done on a very informal way, just by sitting next to each other. The other thing, and we're still struggling with that, is we have to have small dedicated teams with a purpose. And as you all know, that's very hard at Bol.com because we have always a lot of things that we wanted to do. But we drive on that, and we seem to get better at that. So if you look at my fleet, it has the checkout, which has a very clear goal. We have a team that works on customer service that have a very clear goal. We have Bespaar Continu. I don't know how you translate that to English. And what those teams need, and we really want to do that differently because we've learned from the past that we've always seen that we've been focusing too much on features instead of problems. And we want to give the teams the ability to work with a problem and with the whole team. And with the whole team, I mean Scrum team and business team, because I don't see that difference. To focus on a problem and what problem are you trying to solve. So, for example, customer service team is working on to reduce cost and to have a more convenient customer journey if someone ordered something and has questions about it. So what's been given to the team that works on this is a sheet with, hey, here's you see the most asked questions and the amount of money, and try to reduce that in any way. Another thing is that we wanted to do everything in small batch size, and this is a very good example of where we have a very small batch size because we haven't invested anything in design or in IT with this because we've experimented with a totally different company's website to see if conversational UI was a good enough product to get along with and to develop further. So it was very effective, and it had absolutely no investment. The other thing that we do, instead of talking about I like this more or I like that more in a design, is why don't we stop discussing, because it is all opinions. Why don't we ask our customers? So what we do from the beginning of the year is that more and more teams, and here you see an interaction designer and a business analyst going out of the building and ask people, hey, what do you think of this mock-up? Or what do you think of this design? Or if you have a working prototype, how does it work for you? What other problems do you see? And the fun part is that we've started doing this with a couple of teams, but now also developers join and go out to Central Station, and they look very happy. Because interactions are the most important things in working together, is that we ask our designers to externalize their work. So they share it on Workplace, it is all accessible in InVision, and that way we try to really increase the amount of interactions that they have. And all of the examples that I've given you today are all baby steps, because we know that we are at the beginning. And this is my daughter almost 2 years ago when she tried to learn. But the thing in learning is that you have to keep on doing it. And as long as you believe that walking is the only way further, and as long as we believe that Lean UX is really the way that we want to work together, and we try on doing that, and doing it in a lean way, and it doesn't mean being perfectly at the same, doing everything perfectly in the same time, we can do it. And the good thing is that we really do this in one team, one goal, one mission, business and IT together. And in my dream heaven, there is no separation anymore between business and IT. So that's what we're striving for, and we like to keep on smiling along the way. So thank you for your attention, and I'm ready to take questions if you have.
So there's time for one question, so make it a good one. No pressure. Yeah.
So if you're spreading around the designers, how do you keep your design consistent over teams?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we have these designers spread around those different fleets, but we do have a horizontal guild We have a business analyst guild and a product owner guild and a design guild. But it's not perfect yet. So there we're trying to see whatever works. How do we keep it consistent? Because the designers are now interacting with the teams, but they all should be interacting together as well. Yeah, so we're trying to see what that works in that.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, no, sorry, we don't have the time. We need to go to lunch. If you can talk during lunch and ask tons of questions.
Oh, there was the guy with the leather jacket, it's Jasper, right? Niels.
Okay, everyone, it's time for lunch. At 12:30, if you're a speaker, go to the Rabozaal because there is a speaker photo being made.